by the rivers of Babylon. Yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh,
Shalom, shalom. Welcome to the DCB channel. My name is Uziel Lewy. First and foremost, I'd like to give glory to the Most High God for giving me life, for giving life to my family, my household, my children. Hoping and praying that everyone had a beautiful Shabbat meal and that the Most High God continue to be with us all and protect us. Also praying for all of those who are sick in the nation, brothers and sisters who are looking for some healing from the Most High, spiritual as well as mental, and I'm hoping that the Most High God continue to be with us all and protect us. Hoping and praying that Yahuwah continue to bless the works of our hands and work all and bless all the things that and all the endeavors of our hands that we put forth in righteousness and all things that we do, that the Most High God watches over them and protects them and be with us. I just want to give thanks to this great King for food, clothing, and shelter, the fact that I'm alive, the fact that I could sit here and glorify His name. Tonight, we're going to get into the Hanukkah history and go through some things in the Apocrypha, in the first book of Maccabees, chapter 1, starting from verse 1. We're going to see some of the things that our forefathers went through in the history through the hands of a wicked man and also through sheer resilience and toughness and all the things that personify a great nation and a great people. Our great forefathers withstood the test of time, and they were able to withstand anything that came before them with the help of the Creator. So we thank the Most High King for being with us and being with our forefathers and protecting them and guided them through all their endeavors. So at this time, if you have an Apocrypha, we'll be starting from the book of First Maccabees chapter 1 and from verse 1, and we'll begin the history. Hoping and praying that everyone is fine tonight, is doing well. Check to see if anyone is in the room yet. I see that there are 3 people in the room, but thus far, no comments. So we're going to start from the first book of Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. And it reads on this wise. Tonight we're probably going to go a little bit longer because I want to get through the whole history and cover a greater part of or cover, every part of the history tonight. So we're going to do some speed reading. There's going to be some history. And I just want you to see the resiliency and the determination of our great forefathers, and it's going to teach us and give us motivation of how resilient and how strong we should be. All right, so here we go. In the first book of Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. After Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came from the land of Kittim, had defeated King Darius of the Persians and the Medes, give me 1 second here. Seems like I have some technical difficulties. Just want to make sure that I don't. Okay, I don't. I'll start once again, First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. After Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came from the land of Kittim, had defeated King Darius of the Persians and the Medes, he succeeded him as king. He had previously become king of Greece. He fought many battles, conquered strongholds, and put to death the kings of the earth. He advanced to the ends of the earth and plundered many nations. When the earth became quiet before him, he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. He gathered a very strong army and ruled over countries, nations, and princes, and they became tributary to him. After this he fell sick and perceived that he was dying. So he summons most honored officers who had been brought up with him from youth, and divided his kingdom among them while he was still alive, and after Alexander had reigned 12 years, he died. So now here, it speaks about Alexander the Great. Right here it says, right here in this first few passages, we get a summary from Alexander, from verse 1 to verse 10. We get a summary from Alexander to Antiochus IV. You see, Alexander the Great, he was born at 356 BCE and died at 323 BCE. Son of Philip of Macedon, who had conquered Kittim or Greece, right? They were Macedonians and they conquered Greece, swept through Asia Minor and defeated King Darius III at Issus, 333 BCE, and at Gaugamela at 331. After taking Egypt and Mesopotamia, Persia, he had advanced to the ends of the earth, to Bactria in India. He was exalted and he was deified. Such pride in rulers is castigated. So, what we begin to see about Alexander the Great and what history writes about him is that he was a great warrior. He was a great tactician. He was also a lover of history. You know, he, as we see here, he became king upon his father's death in 336 BCE and went on to conquer most of the known world of his day. He is known as the Great. He is known as the Great both for his military genius and his diplomatic skills in handling the various populations of the regions he conquered. He is further recognized for spreading Greek culture, language, and thought from Greece throughout Asia Minor, Egypt, Mesopotamia to India, and thus initiating the era of the Hellenistic world. So now, what we find out about Alexander is that he was a great war tactician. He was also a master politician, and that when he went into lands and conquered them, he allowed the people of the lands to keep their religions. He was also taught as a young man by Aristotle. His father brought in Aristotle to educate him at the age of 14, I believe. And he learned a lot of philosophy from him, and probably learned a lot of his diplomatic skills from Aristotle. So he was a well-rounded person. Greek culture also lent itself to homosexuality. This was a great part of Greek culture. Most men, when they went out to war, they had young boys with them, which were their lovers, their young lovers, and this was part of the culture, which is we understand that this is totally against the laws of the Most High God, but this was part of Greek culture. He also he Hellenized most of the places that I told you about, meaning that he brought Greek culture. Bringing Hellenizing something is bringing in that Greek culture, philosophy, and all these things through Asia Minor, Egypt, and Mesopotamia. That's why in Egypt you have places called Alexandria. You go all the way down to India and you see great monuments and columns, Greek columns in India, from ancient India, Mesopotamia, Babylon, all these places. You see the influence of Alexander and his men, what they did, and all the things that they accomplished, and they got all the way to India. And when he got to India, I believe when he got to India, he fell sick, or when he came back from India. They got into India, his men were exhausted and they couldn't go anymore. They wanted to get on over to China, but they couldn't. It just was too much. And they came back, I believe, to either Mesopotamia, I believe. They came back to Mesopotamia, to Babylon, around there. And I believe he died in Babylon. Just let me double check that. But furthermore, he was his mother's name was Olympias. That was his mother's name. We mentioned that his father was Philip of Macedon, but his mother's name was Olympias. Also, his mother made him to believe that he was a god, that he was a son of one of the gods. So he went around thinking that he was a demigod. He was half man. He thought that he was half man and half God, because his mother put that in him. So right here it says Alexander's death. Upon his recovery from Antiochus' death, which was his best friend, and people, most people and historians said Antiochus was his lover from youth. They were friends from youth. Alexander returned to plans for expanding his empire, but would never realize them. He died in Babylon at the age of 32 on June 10th or 11th, June 323 BC. After suffering 10 days of high fever, theories concerning his cause of death have ranged from poisoning to malaria to meningitis to bacterial infection from drinking contaminated water, among others. So we begin to see where we are left off in history and where we are at. And now we're going to read on. I gave you a great deal of history about Alexander. I hope that wasn't boring to you, but I just wanted to give you a broad understanding of where he stood in history and who he was. Despite him being what he was a great general, great politician, and those were the customs of those people. Despised by the Most High should be despised by us also. But nonetheless, I had to give you the history about the man because it is written in the book, and we read about his father and him and Darius that he defeated. So after Alexander had reigned for 12 years, he died. Then his officers began to rule, each in his own place. They all put on crowns after his death, and so did their descendants after them for many years, and they caused many evils on the earth. From then came forth a sinful root, Antiochus Epiphanes, son of the king Antiochus. He had been a hostage in Rome. He began to reign in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So now, here we have the generals. After Alexander passed away, he split his kingdom among his generals, and there were 4 generals: Cassander, Ptolemy, Antigonus, and Seleucus, known as the Diadochi or successors. These were the successors of Alexander, the generals. So now we speak about Antiochus. Antiochus IV he was Epiphanes, which means God manifest. He thought he was a god. He he was an evil root. So now what we see here is that through history, and history coincides with the history that we're reading. Because you could go into any encyclopedia and read about Alexander the Great and his successors, the people that came after him, the Diadochi, or the successors. They came after him. And his kingdom was split into four, and now we're up to Antiochus the fourth, which surname was Epiphanes, which means God manifest. He thought he was a god, but this is Hellenistic thought. This is still grounded in Greek culture, and these men originated from Greek culture. So this was, long after Alexander had passed on and he passed away. Now we have this wicked, sinful root, that took on the areas of Syria, because when they split up the kingdoms, they all took different regions. They didn't stay within. They weren't ruling within the same area. They all took different parts of the East, Europe, and they separated it amongst each other. And later on in history, even the ancestors, or the progenitors of these four generals, they began to war with each other, as you read on in history. But nonetheless, we're talking about Antiochus the fourth, Epiphanes, who was a sinful root, son of King Antiochus. He had been a hostage in Rome. He began to reign in 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Verse 11. Those days certain renegades came out from Israel and misled many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the Gentiles around us, for since we separated from them, many disasters have come upon us. This proposal pleased them, and some of the people eagerly went to the king, who authorized them to observe the ordinances of the Gentiles. So they built a gymnasium in Jerusalem, according to the Gentiles' custom, and removed the marks of circumcision, and abandoned the holy covenant. They joined with the Gentiles and sold themselves to do evil. So these were a bunch of wicked, evil Israelites that wanted to be like the Gentiles, wanted to be Hellenized, wanted to be like the Syrians, wanted to be like all the people round about them. And they went to the king and they made a proposal that they wanted to do all these things, put in a proposal for a gymnasium to be built. And the gymnasium basically is a place where in Greek society, men went in there naked. There was sports like wrestling, Greek wrestling, where man gets on top of another man. There was a lot of homosexual activities going on because you had to go into the gymnasium naked. And this was some of the things that our forefathers, unfortunately, wanted to be a part of. They wanted to partake of all these things. These renegades were lawless ones. The people who wanted to live under no kind of jurisdiction. They wanted to live a Greek life, and they didn't want to be governed by the laws and statutes of the Most High God. Right here. A gymnasium, the center of political and cultural education, as well as sports. Said they removed the marks of circumcision by a surgical procedure. They did that. Epispasm, since Greek athletes were performed in the nude. Greek athletics were performed in the nude. So they wanted to fit in with the Greeks. So because we were circumcised, they did things to mutilate themselves in order to look like they were uncircumcised. And this shows you the mentality of a people that wants to fit in. Even today you see our children, they want to fit in. They do things like, try to look like because society teaches us that white and blonde is right, blonde hair and blue eyes is beauty. So you see our young girls with with blonde hair and blue eyes, and because this is subliminally what they've been taught to be beauty. So we hanging around the Greeks or the Syrians at that time who were Hellenized, who had that Greek culture, now we want it to be like the Greeks, or we wanted to join all the sports that they had. And this is the beginning of the deterioration of a people when you begin to see it. Because anytime you want to be like the people who are oppressing you, that is the beginning of you erasing who you are and what your history is. So at this point in time, we see that our people, want to be like the Greeks or the Syrians. The Syrians at that point were Hellenized, so wanted to be like the Greeks, wanted to have the gymnasium and join all the clubs that they had. Verse 16. When Antiochus saw that his kingdom was established, he determined to become king of the land of Egypt. Now he's following the steps that Alexander did, because Alexander also captured Egypt, and that's where he went into the oracle, and the oracle, his mother made him believe that he was a demigod at that point. But he was born of Philip of Macedon. He wasn't born of a god. In order that he might reign over both kingdoms. So he wanted to follow in the footsteps of Alexander in order and have the same type of success that Alexander had. But fortunately, he did not have that success. Verse 17. So he invaded Egypt with a strong force, with chariots and elephants and cavalry, and with a large fleet. He engaged King Ptolemy of Egypt in battle, and Ptolemy turned and fled before him, and many were wounded and fell. So you see, at the beginning I told you that, the Seleucid kingdom, which is this, where Antiochus come from, it was Ptolemy, it was Seleucid, it was all the other generals that were there were Cassander, Ptolemy, Antigonus, and Seleucus. So these are, excuse me for the names because they're hard to pronounce, but after some generations went by, all these four generals, their progenitors started warring with each other and started wanting to take over each other's territory. And this is what's going on at this time. So the Most High, so now we're going to see all the things that begin to transpire as things begin to show up and make themselves how do you say, make themselves available to us where we could see them. And it reads, verse 18, he engaged King Ptolemy of Egypt in battle, and Ptolemy turned and fled before him, and many were wounded and fell. They captured the fortified cities in the land of Egypt, and he plundered the land of Egypt. So he went into Egypt and plundered it. Because King Ptolemy, he flew. He got out of the way. He didn't want any parts of him. Verse 20, after subduing Egypt, Antiochus returned in the 143rd year. He went up against Israel and came to Jerusalem with a strong force. So now the difference between Antiochus and Alexander is that Alexander allowed you to keep your way of life, allowed you to engage in worshiping your God. But this guy, he wanted to Hellenize everyone. And this was the difference between him and Alexander. So now, that you want to Hellenize everyone, now you're going to get a resistance back. See, whenever you try to change people from their way of life, from who they are, then you're gonna get a pushback. This is just naturally life. This is how life is. Whenever you try to do that, you're gonna get a kickback. You're gonna get a pushback from people, because people want to live their lives. They want to be who they are, as far as when you're trying to take over a country. That's why you see that, a lot of people don't want to be westernized. They don't want to be Western. They want to live their lives the way that they grew up, the way that they know. So if it's an Eastern culture, that's what they want. If it's a Far Eastern culture, that's what they want. If it's a European, Europe is considered the West, but certain parts of Europe that are not quote unquote westernized, they want to live their lives the way that they want to live it, like in Russia or in China or South Korea and Japan. They don't want the Western culture because they have their own culture. And what happens is that you see here, he's going to try to force the people to do what they do. And then you have example, because the whole society wasn't going into gymnasiums. Everybody didn't rebel. Some people were still keeping Shabbat. Some people were still doing, the traditional things that we do as Israelites. But this guy right here, he wanted no parts of it. He wanted everybody to worship his gods and to do whatever he did. And this is when he's going to run into some opposition. Verse 20. After subduing Egypt, Antiochus returned in the 143rd year, and he went up against Israel and came to Jerusalem with a strong force. So Antiochus came to Jerusalem, and he came deep. He came with a strong force, it says here. He arrogantly entered the sanctuary and took the golden altar, the lampstand for the light, and all his utensils. He took also the table for the bread of the presence, the cups for drink offerings, the bowls, the golden censers, the curtain, the crowns, and the gold decoration of the front of the temple. He stripped it all off. He took the silver, the gold, and the costly vessels. He took also the hidden treasures that he found. Taking them all, he went into his own land. He shed much blood and spoke with great arrogance. Israel mourned deeply in every community. Rulers and elders groaned. Young women and young men became faint. The beauty of women faded. Every bridegroom took up the lament. She who sat in the bridal chamber was mourning. Even the land trembled for its inhabitants, and all the house of Jacob was clothed with shame. So he went into the holy temple. He went into the sanctuary and he ransacked it and took everything from it. And you ask yourself, well, why didn't he die if he touched all these holy vessels? Because the Most High God has left us because of what was going on. We built a gymnasium in Jerusalem. We did all the atrocities that the heathens were doing, and we joined them in it. So God had left us. The power of the Most High God had left us, and now we had to stand on our own, and we had to go through this calamity because we did not revere the name of the Most High God. That's why it's dangerous when we mingle his name with any other one, because once we start mingling God with any other deity or any other man or anything that you could think of, then you're not giving the full glory to the Most High, and then the Most High has left you. So we have to be very aware of what we're doing and the things that we say and what we follow, because the Most High God is very aware of the things that we're doing. And right here, the Most High God has left the people because of their actions and the things that they have done, and joining a different culture and trying to eliminate the name of the creator of heaven and earth. This man is trying to eliminate the name of Jehovah. But we're going to see the way that the Most High God works his mighty hand and the things that he does for his people. Verse 29. 2 years later, the king sent to the cities of Judah a chief collector of tribute, and he came to Jerusalem with a large force. Deceitfully he spoke peaceably words to them, and they believed him. But he suddenly fell upon the city, dealt it a severe blow, and destroyed many people of Israel. He plundered the city, burnt it with fire, and tore down its houses and its surrounding walls. So he sent Antiochus, after 2 years after he's ransacked the temple, and he did much bloodshed, he sends out a tax collector, somebody who goes down and collects tax, because when you have a people under subjugation, Now they got to pay you taxes. So now this tax collector came in there, and everyone that he saw did not follow Greek culture. He slaughtered them. He went after them. He came with a very large force. So he came to collect taxes, but he also came to massacre those people that were not following Greek culture. Why? Because we have the power and we could do it. But like I said, the Most High God has other things and plans, and we're going to begin to, Most High is going to begin to reveal his hand and show his power and his might. 31. He plundered the city, burnt it with fire, and tore down his houses, its surrounding walls. So he destroyed all the fortified walls, and he destroyed the city. We're talking about Jerusalem at this point. Verse 32. They took captive the women and children and seized the livestock. So they took our women and our children and took the livestock. Then they fortified the city of David with a great strong wall and strong towers, and it became their citadel. It became their stronghold. So they took the city of David, built strong walls around it, and it became their armory, their stronghold. This is where the Syrian soldiers will come, or the people who wanted to live in that culture, in that Hellenistic society. They lived there because they all were in agreement. So they made the city of David their stronghold or their city. Verse 34. They stationed there sinful people, men who were renegades. These strengthened their position. They tore up arms and food, and collecting the spoils of Jerusalem, they stored them there and became a great menace. So these men, once again, these renegades that it speak about, it says, simple people like lawless ones, a biblical term used primarily for Israelites who were not faithful to the covenant. You can refer to Isaiah chapter 1, verse 4. So these are Israelites that supported the Seleucid Empire and that backed them. So, I mean, we see that today. We see sellouts today. We see people who want to join in with society and be like society and do all the things that society do, and they try to blend in and don't even wear zitzios anymore. Forget about wearing your turban. You know, your identity as an Israelite, skirts get shorter, all these things, because now you want to assimilate with society and you want to be like the people in society, in this society, especially in this Western society, when the Most High God created us to be how we are and how we supposed to be. So the same thing that happens today was happening back then. The people assimilated, and these wicked people, these Israelites that were Hellenized, were the ones that were staying in the city of David, and they were the ones that were doing the collection, taxing people. They became like the enemy. And you know how it is with the slave man, with the taskmaster, or with the or when one of your own become your taskmasters. They worse than the people who come from the people that came and conquered you. So we stay on top of this, and we realize what we're dealing with and the things that we're seeing. Verse 36. For the citadel, or the stronghold, citadel is stronghold, became an ambush against the sanctuary, an evil adversary of Israel at all times. On every side of the sanctuary, they shed innocent blood. They even defiled the sanctuary. Because of them, the residents of Jerusalem fled. She became a dwelling of strangers. She became strange to her offspring. Her children forsook her. Her sanctuary became desolate like desert. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into a reproach, her honor into contempt. Her dishonor now grew as great as her glory. Her exaltation was turned into mourning. So the people stopped doing the Shabbat, desecrated the Shabbat. Said her sanctuary became desolate like desert because they would no longer worshiping, they were no longer worshiping the Most High God. You understand me? They were no longer worshiping the Most High God. They were worshiping Zeus now. This is the worship of Zeus started in all the Greek deities that they had, because these wicked people, these wicked Israelites, started to convert the people, started to convert them and Hellenize them, because they were Hellenized, and started to teach Greek culture within our society. So there was no need to go to the temple anymore. So the temple lay desolate. And they wouldn't allow it because they had control of the city of David, which the temple was located in, which is Jerusalem. So we begin to see the how these things are starting to play themselves out, and how the people became Hellenized and adopted this Greek culture. Shalom, shalom, everyone. I hope that everyone is doing well tonight. Just taking a minute to welcome everyone that's in the room at this time. Just trying to get through this Hanukkah history for everyone that might not know about it. Shabbat shalom aleichem once again. And hope that the Most High God will bless you all. We'll pick back up the history. Verse 41. Then the king wrote to his whole kingdom that all shall be one people, and that all should give up their particular customs. So this is King Antiochus IV. And like I told you, the contrast between him and Alexander is that Alexander allowed people to continue in their way of lives, in their religion, whatever they might have had. You just had to pay, you had to pay your taxes and be able, when he called you up, to be able to roll with him if he needed such help from you. You had to be an ally to him. So, he was taught by Aristotle, which was a quote unquote, people say he was a great philosopher. So he was taught the art of diplomacy from Aristotle, and Aristotle taught him how to think in a way to where you don't want people to be your enemies. You want people to be on your side. So if you allow people to keep their customs and the way that they've been raised up, then you will most likely have you already are subjugating them. So you don't want to make things worse. You don't want to have revolts and rebellions all the time. So, but this guy right here, he wants everybody to be Greek. He wants everybody to worship Zeus. He wants everybody to do all those things. Verse 43, all the Gentiles accepted the command of the king. Many even from Israel gladly adopted his religion. What was that religion? Let us see here. The religion that they adopted was, I'm going to read it to you right now. Well, like I said, it was about Greek custom. It says right here, his whole kingdom, Syria, Palestine, Mesopotamia, Persia, parts of Asia Minor. Parallel accounts in 2 Maccabees chapter 6, and Josephus, the Antiquities, report that the decree was aimed solely at Palestinian Israelites and Samaritans. So right here it says he wanted to turn everybody, he wanted to Hellenize everyone. It says, verse 43, all the Gentiles accepted the command of the king. Many even from Israel gladly adopted his religion. They sacrificed to idols and profaned the Shabbat. And the king sent letters by messengers to Jerusalem and the towns of Judah. He directed them to follow customs strange to the land. He wanted them to follow customs strange to the land. To forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the sanctuary, to profane Shabbat and festivals, to defile the sanctuary and the priests, to build altars and sacred precincts and shrines for idols, to sacrifice swine and other unclean animals, and to leave their sons uncircumcised. They were to make themselves abominable by everything unclean and profane. So that they will forget the law and change all the ordinances. He added, whoever does not obey the command of the king shall die. So now he has a war with God, because obviously he understood our culture, because all the things that he commanded for us to do, to leave our children uncircumcised, to build shrines and altars to idols, which is death penalties if we worship other idols, and not to go down to the temple and make any burnt offerings. These were all things that were totally against the laws of the creator of heaven and earth, Yehovah Zebaot. So Antiochus wanted us basically to go against our way of life and to live a total Greek life. That's what he wanted us to live. He no longer wanted us to worship the Most High God. So the odds are stacked against us. But we know that wherever the odds are stacked against Israel, that the Most High God always comes and delivers us. And it reads, and he commanded if no one did any of these things or didn't follow any of these things, that they should die. Verse 51. In such words he wrote to his whole kingdom. He appointed inspectors over all the people and commanded the towns of Judah to offer sacrifice, town by town. So he appointed inspectors to make sure that the people were going to do what he wanted them to do. And they went by town to town to make sure that everybody had shrines up and no one was circumcised. They was doing short arm inspections on them children. Make sure that you didn't circumcise them. It says, many of the people, everyone who forsook the Lord, joined them, and they did evil in the land. They drove Israel into hiding in every place of refuge they had. So these were the people that didn't want to be Hellenized. These were the people that did not want to obtain Greek culture. These were our people who stood strong and refused to be Hellenized. They ran and they hid in the mountains because they wanted to continue to do the laws of the Most High God. But like it is in all societies, even us here in America, even though we say we Israel, we still have the influence of our slave masters upon us. There's a lot of things that we do that, unfortunately, because we are in captivity, that we wouldn't be doing if we were in our land, because it would be forbidden, and we still don't have full grasp of these commandments. So the Most High God, in our return back, he will give us a full grasp of all the law, statutes, and commandments. And it reads, verse 54. Now on the 15th day of Kislew, in the 145th year, they erected a desolation sacrilege on the altar of burnt offering. They also built altars in the surrounding towns of Judah. So they erected in the altar of burnt offering a deity. So Kislew is November or December, and in the Hebrew calendar, Kislew. The precise meaning of desolating sacrilege is unknown. It included an altar to Zeus Olympius, the Greek equivalent of the Syrian god Baal Shamem. So they erected a altar to Zeus Olympius. This was total disrespect and disregard to the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God. So everything is being set up. We begin to see how things are transpiring. And then we're going to begin to see the might and the force of the Most High God as he proceeds to rectify the matter and put things back in perspective. It reads, they also built altars in the surrounding towns of Judah and offered incense at the doors of the houses and in the streets. The books of the Lord that they found, they tore to pieces and burnt with fire. So they wanted to eliminate, they wanted to eliminate the name of the Most High God completely. And we know that that's not possible because our God is king. And anyone found possessing the book of the covenant, or anyone who adhered to the law, was condemned to death by decree of the king. So this was harsh times for Jacob, but out of it, Jacob shall be saved. The Most High God will consider us, and we always prevail with the help of the creator of heaven and earth. They kept using violence against Israel, against those who were found month after month in the towns. On the 25th day of the month, they offered sacrifice on the altar that was on top of the altar of burnt offering. According to the decree, they put to death the women who had their children circumcised, and their families, and those who circumcised them, and they hung the infants from their mothers' necks. So this shows you how cruel these people were. So because the women circumcised their children, they will hang the children off their mothers' necks. This is really a atrocious act. And they'll kill the mother for not following the commands of the king. Because they wanted to keep the laws of God, we were penalized for that. You have to think and remember what our forefathers went through and be appreciative of what you have and that we could keep these commandments. See, you could say what you want to say about America, but one thing I'll tell you about America, freedom of religion really protects us, because if you was living in Saudi Arabia, you wouldn't have a chance to be a Israelite or Hebrew. They're not playing that in that society. Could go there and visit, but you can't open up any place there and talk about this is this or this is that. I don't think there's a Christian church in Saudi Arabia or a Jewish synagogue. They would have blew it up. That's just how they do over there. So, and I'm making fun of it, but we know that this is reality. So at this point right here, we see the sacrilege and the things that they're doing, and it's really, really awful at this point. So now, verse 62. While many in Israel stood firm and were resolved in their hearts not to eat unclean food. So some people stood strong and were staunch. They didn't want to eat unclean food. You know, when you be brought up a certain way and you're sincere about your way of life, you don't care. You will die for what you believe in. Some people get weak. You know, you got people that get weak today that walk in the path of the people that are our oppressors. But you got people that are still resolved and walk in the laws and statutes of the creator of heaven and earth. 63. They chose to die rather than to defile by food or to profane the holy covenant, and they did die. Very great wrath came upon Israel. So on top of all that, you know, the Most High God was punishing us, still judging us for what we've done. So a lot of people still die for their own iniquities. Chapter 2. In those days, Matathias, son of John, son of Simeon, a priest of the family of Joarim, moved from Jerusalem and settled in Modim. So, you know, he was part of the exodus of people that moved from Jerusalem and they went to Modim. He was from they were Levites from the priesthood. Moved to Modim. I think Modim is about 20 miles east of Jerusalem. So he took his family up there. About a day's journey, I believe, in those days. Verse 2. He had 5 sons. John surnamed Gadi. Shimon called Tassi, Judah called Maccabees, Eleazar called Avaran, and Yohanatan called Apis. Verse 6. He saw the blasphemies being committed in Judah and Jerusalem. Verse 7. And said, Alas, why was I born to see this? The ruin of my people, the ruin of the holy city, and to live there with it was given over to the enemy, the sanctuary given over to aliens. Her temple has become like a person without honor. Her glorious vessels have been carried into exile. Her infants have been killed in her streets, her youths by the sword of the foe. What nation has not inherited her palaces and has not seized her spoils? All her adornment has been taken away. No longer free, she has become a slave. And see, our holy place, our beauty, our glory have been laid waste. The Gentiles have profaned them. Why should we live any longer? So now he was mourning, and he was hurt because of what he saw, from what he knew. He knew the beauty of Jerusalem and the city and the people. And now what he sees is breaking his heart. This is a man already that got some years on him. He's not a young guy. This is an elder here. And is repenting him to see what he saw in the midst of the people. All the debauchery and all the evil wickedness that's going on within the city. So this is really hurting him at this point. Verse 14, then Matathias and his son tore their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned greatly. They mourned for the city. They were crying. They were in pain for what they saw in Jerusalem because they knew what Jerusalem had been. And they knew the greatness of Jerusalem. But at this point, Jerusalem is like a wasteland. And wasteland meaning that it wasn't, because remember, they built it up. But it was like a wasteland in saying that they could never have thought that Jerusalem would become a place for heathens and for sellout Israelites that could do anything that they wanted to do in there. Orgy, parties, all types of stuff. Gymnasium with men going in there naked. This was all the things that were going on in Jerusalem. And we didn't have power in our hands to do anything unless the Most High God interfered and helped us. And it reads, so they put on sackcloth and they mourned greatly. Verse 15, the king's officers who were enforcing the apostasy came to the town of Modim to make them offer sacrifice. So the king's enforcers will come all the time and they will force the law. They went from town to town, and now they finally came to Modim. This is where Judas and his sons is at, to make them offer sacrifice. He forced them to do this Greek stuff. So, Antiochus was on top of it. He was definitely on top of it. Verse 16, many from Israel came to them, and Matathias and his sons were assembled. And the king's officers spoke to Matathias as follows. You are a leader, honored and great in this town, supported by sons and brothers. Now be the first to come and do what the king commands, as all the Gentiles and the people of Judah and those that are left in Jerusalem have done. Then you and your sons will be numbered among the friends of the king, and you and your sons will be honored with silver and gold and many gifts. So now they're trying to bribe Matathias to do the offering, the offering of the pig, and to sacrifice it and to eat it in the sight of the people. But let's see what Matathias is saying, what sets off this whole history and what we see because of the bravery of our great forefather, Father Matathias. But Matathias answered and said in a loud voice, even if all the nations that live under the rule of the king obey him and have chosen to obey his commandments, every one of them abandoning the religion of their ancestors, I and my sons and my brothers will continue to live by the covenant of our ancestors. Far be it from us to desert the law and the ordinances. We will not obey the king's words by turning aside from our religion to the right hand or to the left. So this is a straight out rebellion. Matathias said, we ain't going to do that. And he spoke for everyone in that town and for his sons, because these are the people that got away from what they saw and from people being murdered and all of that. So now they're banding together. But Matathias mustered up the spirit and the courage to say these words to the king's commander, the one who came to do damage and to make people worship and to make an offering to a false deity. Verse 23, When he had finished speaking these words, an Israelite came forward in the sight of all to offer sacrifice on the altar in Modim, according to the king's command. When Matathias saw it, he burnt with zeal, and his heart was stirred. He gave vent to righteous anger. He ran and killed them on the altar. So now we know anger rested from the bosom of a fool. But it says he gave vent to righteous anger. His anger was called righteous at this moment because you get a sellout Uncle Tom Israelite that comes out and wants to go, oh yeah, we're gonna follow what Antiochus said. We're gonna burn us some pig on this altar. An Israelite. Matathias had none of it. Verse 25. He ran and killed them on the altar. Verse 25. At the same time, he killed the king's officer who was forcing them to sacrifice, and he tore down the altar. Thus, he burnt with zeal for the Lord, just as Phinehas did against Zimri, son of Salu. So he did that which was right. He didn't think about the consequences. He thought about the righteousness in the matter, and that's what he did. And he put forth his hand, and he did that. And it was and I suppose it was counted to him by the Most High as a blessing. Doesn't say here, but I'm sure that it was, or else he wouldn't be written about. Verse 27. Then Matathias cried out in the town with a loud voice, saying, Let everyone who is zealous for the law and supports the covenant come out with me. Then he and his sons fled to the hills and left all that they had in the town. So they made up their minds, him and his sons and the people that were with him, and they went into the hills. They went into the mountain, into the crevice, and into the rocks. Because at least when you fighting in the mountains, you could see your enemy coming, and you could prepare. Or it's hard to fight coming up than to fight going down. So you got the momentum going down. So this is what's going on at this time. They moved up into the mountains, and they on the run now. Verse 29. At that time, many who were seeking righteousness and justice went down to the wilderness to live there. They, their sons, their wives, their livestock, because trouble pressed heavily upon them. So a lot of people that were seeking righteousness and justice went down to the wilderness to live there. So they went in the forest, in the woods. But remember, Matathias and them went into the mountains. So let's see what happened to these people. And it was reported to the king's officers and to the troops in Jerusalem, the city of David, that those who had rejected the king's command had gone down to the hiding places in the wilderness. Many pursued them and overtook them. They encamped opposite them and prepared for battle against them on the Sabbath day. So these people knew our traditions and they knew our way of life. So now when things begin to happen, you see that the people the commanders of the king came down there, and now it's about ready to be on, because they understand what happened. They understand our history. They understand our law. And now at this point, they begin to surround us. What some people will say is a sucker move, but it's strategic, because if you feel like the people are not going to fight this day, why make the fight for yourself harder? But it was evil, because the Most High God, first and foremost, is going to avenge the blood of his people. And we're going to see what's going to begin to happen at this moment. I'm going a little bit ahead of the story, but it's going to be something awful that's going to happen at this point. Then it reads, verse 32. Many pursued them and overtook them. They encamped opposite them and prepared for battle against them on their Sabbath day. They said to them, Enough of this. Come out and do what the king commands, and you will live. But they said, We will not come out, nor will we do what the king commands, and so profane the Shabbat day. Then the enemy quickly attacked them, but they did not answer them or hurl a stone at them or block up their hiding places. For they said, let us all die in our innocence. Heaven and earth testify for us that you are killing us unjustly. So they attacked them on the Shabbat, and they died with their wives and children and livestock, to the number of 1,000 persons. So now, because they were Sabbath observers and they didn't want to forsake the laws of the Most High God, they said, we're not going to do it. We're not going to fight. We're not going to do any of those things, because this is the Sabbath and we honor and respect the name of the Most High God and his commandments. One thing that I read in the Psalm of Solomon, he said, with all thy getting, he said, get wisdom. He said, but with all thy getting, get you some understanding. If someone is attacking you, even on the Shabbat day, the Most High God never takes away the right from us to defend ourselves, no matter what day it is. So if someone is attacking us on the Shabbat day, we have all rights to defend ourselves on the Shabbat day, because it's about survival at that point when someone is trying to snuff you out of this earth. So definitely our fathers, they slipped on that one, but blessed be their memory for not wanting to profane the Most High God in sacrificing to idols and eating swine's flesh. So blessed be the Most High, and blessed be his holy name. Hallelujah. Fathers died for trying to keep the laws of God to the best of their ability. It's a beautiful thing. So now, it reads, 39. When Matathias and his friends learned of it, they mourned for them deeply, and all said to their neighbors, if we all do as our kindred have done and refuse to fight with the Gentiles for our lives and for our ordinances, they will quickly destroy us from the earth. So they made this decision that day. Let us fight against anyone who comes to attack us on the Shabbat day. Let us not at all die as our kindred died in their hiding places. So Matathias and his son said, no, we're not going out like Willie Lump Lump. We're not going out like that. No sirree. If they come and they attack us on the Shabbat day, we're going to fight. And that's just how we're going to do it. We're not going to stand here and we're not going to accept them. We're not going to accept them putting their hands on us no matter what day it is. We're going to defend ourselves. This is the resolve. This is using wisdom. This is using understanding, But still, blessed be the memory of our forefathers who gave their lives for trying to keep the commandments of the Most High God. That's a blessing in itself. Verse 42, then they united with them a company of, it says, of Hasidians. Hasidians are pious people, like Hasidim, that's who they are, the pious ones. It says a group not concerned for Israelite nationalism, but only for the laws of the Most High God. Then it reads, mighty warriors of Israel, all who offered themselves willingly for the law. These were the Hasidians. They just wanted to do law. Verse 43, and all who became fugitives to escape their troubles joined them and reinforced them. They organized an army and struck down sinners in their anger and renegades in their wrath. So they formed a band of people and they started raids on all the Uncle Tom sellouts that uncircumcised themselves and was walking around in Greek togas and walking around with Greek crowns on their heads and you know, darn black people walking around looking like some damn Greeks, you know. So excuse the language, but it makes me angry when you think about the sellout element in the midst of the nation when they see that our people are dying. It says, and all who became fugitives to escape their troubles joined them, and reinforced them. Verse 44. They organized an army and struck down sinners in their anger and renegades in their wrath. The survivors fled to the Gentiles for safety. And Matathias and his friends went around and tore down the altars. So Matathias and his friends personally, they went down and started tearing all them altars that were dedicated to Zeus. They started tearing it down. And they forcibly circumcised all the uncircumcised boys that they found within the borders of Israel. They hunted down the arrogant and the work prospered in their hands. They rescued the law out of the hands of the Gentiles and kings, and they never let the sinner gain the upper hand. So it's showing you their resolve and their resilience. Once they dedicated themselves to Yah and to doing the work of the Most High God, God protected them even in the sight of evil and in the sight of looking like they will not have a chance. The Most High God caused their hands to prosper. And this is very important for us to see and to understand that when we stick with the Creator and we stick with the law, statutes, and commandments, that He will always, I repeat, He will always be there for us. Hallelujah. Verse 49. Now the days drew near for Matathias to die. Now the days drew near for Matathias to die, and said to his sons, arrogance and scorn have now become strong. It is a time of ruin and furious anger. Now, my children, show zeal for the Lord, and give your lives for the covenant of our ancestors. Say, give your lives for the covenant of our ancestors. You know what that means? Man, give your lives for this Torah. Forget all that other mess. Forget all that, all those other ways of life, and you think that this stuff is your solution, and you do all this other, all this other stuff. Forget all that. Give your life for the laws of God, because this is what's going to preserve you. And even today in history, we remember Matathias and his sons for the bravery and the commitment that they have for the laws of the Most High God. Verse 51. Remember the deeds of their ancestors, which they did in their generations, and you will receive great honor and everlasting name. Was not Abraham found faithful when tested, and it was reckoned to him as righteousness? It was reckoned to Abraham as righteousness. Joseph, in the time of his distress, kept the commandment and became Lord of Egypt. Phinehas, our ancestor, because he was deeply zealous, received the covenant and everlasting priesthood. Joshua, because he fulfilled the commandment, became a judge in Israel. Caleb, because he testified in the assembly, received an inheritance in the land. David, because he was merciful, inherited the throne of his kingdom forever. Elijah, because of great zeal for the law, was taken up into heaven. Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael believed and were saved from the flame. Daniel, because of his innocence, was delivered from the mouth of the lions. So he gives great examples of people who trusted in the Most High God, who put their faith in God. They didn't think about didn't think about any consequences when they were executing the laws of God. And the Most High God blessed the works of their hands. So we have to keep these things in mind and see the things that are going on in this history. It's a great history, brothers and sisters. And if you get into it, and if you read it, and you grasp the account of it, then you will see that this great king delivers his people. We just have to stay the course. We put our faith and our trust in him, and he will bless us. I guarantee that. Verse 61. And so observe from generation to generation that none of those who put their trust in him will lack strength. Oh my goodness. None of those who put their strength in the Most High God will lack strength. These are words that will fortify our spirits. These are words that we should walk with. And we should keep this in quotations and put underneath it Matathias, MACCABEES. You know what I mean? Because these are words of encouragement that he was giving his sons on his deathbed. And it's encouragement to us even in these days, because when we read words like this, and so observe from generation to generation that none of those who put their trust in him will lack strength. In who? Put their trust in the Creator. You will never lack strength. No matter how down and out you are, you will never lack strength. The Creator will be with you. It's a great thing, brothers and sisters. It's a great thing. And it reads, do not fear the words of sinners. Do not fear the words of sinners, for their splendor will turn into dung and worms. That's right. Don't fear the words of sinners. Sinners are sinners. Sinners will never have the strength to overcome the righteous. It says the righteous is as bold as a lion. So the sinners could never defeat us, because we stand in our strength and we stand with the Most High, which is the ultimate strength. And it goes on and says, today they will be exalted, but tomorrow they will not be found, because they will have returned to the dust and their plans will have perished. We need to take those words, this prayer, or these sayings that Matathias is saying at this time, and frame them, because it's great words of encouragement. My children, be courageous and grow strong in the Lord, for by it you will gain honor. By doing the law, you will gain honor. By observing the laws, you will gain honor. You know, we have our bumps and bruises along the way. We all have them. None of us are perfect. None of us could say and claim that everything we do is perfect. And we continue to make mistakes. I continue to make mistakes. I'm not perfect. But the excellency of it is that we're trying to stay strong in the law, for by it I will gain honor. We all gain honor. Verse 65. Here is your brother Simeon, who I know is wise in counsel. Always listen to him. He shall be your father. So Simeon is the oldest, and say you should listen to him. He shall be your father. That means the power gets passed down to Simeon. Judas Maccabeus has been a mighty warrior from his youth. He shall command the army for you and fight the battle against the peoples. So it's talking about Judas Maccabeus is going to be the commander-in-chief, the war general. That's Judas. Verse 67. You shall rally around you all who observe the law and avenge the wrong done to your people. Pay back the Gentiles in full and obey the commands of the law. So he's encouraging them. He's, listen, die for this. Go and pay back all those people who came and desecrated the temple. Go and pay back all those people that went around and murdered all those people in the forest. Go and pay back all those people. He's telling his sons, listen, die with this. This is what you live for, to die for this. So now he in his deathbed, this man is showing strength. Verse 69. Then he blessed them and was gathered to his ancestors. He died in those 146 years, in the 146th year, and was buried in the tomb of his ancestors at Modim, and all Israel mourned for him with great lamentation. Hallelujah. So that's just the first part of the story of Hanukkah. I'm feeling kind of tired right now, so I can't continue, and I don't want to give you less of myself. Shalom, shalom. I wish I had a reader. If I had a reader, it would be easier on me to just teach. But the problem is that I don't have a reader, and what happens is that as I'm reading and I'm teaching at the same time, and y'all know it's Friday night, it gets a little bit tiring. So I don't want to give you less of myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this lesson in the morning, way before I go to Shabbat services. I'll probably be up about 5:30 in the morning doing it. I don't know any of you that's going to be up around that time, but it's going to be up and running by the time you get up, and you could probably catch it you before you go to before you tune into us for the live services. So I'm going to finish. I hope that y'all enjoyed that. I hope that I know I do this history all the time, so many of you probably have heard it before. Um, it's a little bit different doing it to it's a little bit different just doing it to a camera without the audience feeding back on you, because sometimes I like that feedback from the audience, and it gets me revved up and it gets me going. But I hope that I was clear. If you weren't clear on something, please let me know so I could clarify it. But I hope, if I was clear, just give me a one in the room. If you understood everything that I was saying, just give me a one in the room, and just let me know that you guys really heard what I was saying and understood everything that I said, from Alexander to his father to Antiochus IV to Epiphanes, surname Epiphanes, which means God manifests, to to Hanukkah. The word Hanukkah means, or Chanuk means to dedicate, or means Hanukkah, dedication. This week, as I finish off tomorrow, we're going to see that it's the dedication of the temple, the rededication of the temple that King David gave to Solomon to build. So hoping and praying that on this day, that the Most High God once again continue to bless you all, continue to be with you, continue to guide you, continue to really, really, really protect you and give you all the endeavors of your mind. So at this point, I would like to thank the Most High God for all of you, and hoping and praying that the Most High God will grant all of you a blessing. My brother Tavel, Ben Cor Mikhail, Hebrew sister, that's Gavera Kaskuya down in Michigan. Dina Yisrael, my sister in Georgia. May the Most High God bless you. Bathsheba Yisrael, may the Most High God be with you and bless you. Servants of Yehovah, may the Most High God be with you and bless you. And Marsha Reed, may the Most High God bless you and keep you. And the Most High God, may He shine His face upon you and be gracious unto you. So we thank Yehovah King for all things and everything, food, clothing, and shelter. Like I said, hoping and praying that I'm doing justice to this history, and that y'all are enjoying it. It's important for me, to make sure that you guys are happy, and I know that y'all like the Friday night thing, and it would be better if it was more interactive. There's a way I could do interaction, and I'm done with that lesson for now. But I would like to in the future be more interactive. For those of you who would like to join me, but you need to have you need to have a computer with a webcam. I think most computers have webcams, a webcam and a built-in mic, which most computers have. Basically, I will do a Google Hangout. I need your email. I'll invite you to the Hangout, and you could come in and share your thoughts, your ideas, and we could definitely do a Hangout that way. It will be, yeah, that's what I was saying on the reading. If I could get someone On the Hangout, we could do it. On the Google Hangout, I could have someone somewhere else reading for me, and then I could teach, whatever is up there. So, but with the Hangout, you got to make sure that all your background sounds are dead. No children running around making noise. Your wife has to know that you're doing something, or your husband has to know that you're doing something, and so you can't come into the room and start making noise or doing any of that. Shalom, shalom, Antonio Felton. We just finished with the first two chapters of the book of First Maccabees. I'll conclude it first thing in the morning to understand the significance of Hanukkah and not all this stuff that they're doing now. They got Hanukkah bushes, they got dreidels, they got all types of stuff going on out here. And for contrary to popular belief, Hanukkah is not the Jewish Xmas. All right? Hanukkah is not the Jewish Xmas. They got Hanukkah bushes. All the Hanukkah bushes is a darn Christmas tree. Hanukkah has nothing to do with a tree. It has nothing to do with any of that. Those are Christmas trees that they try to put a quote unquote Israelite meaning to it, which is absolutely absurd, and it has nothing to do with our tradition. Nowhere does it say that they cut down a tree and put ornaments on it. Those are Christmas trees. And that's what those people who buy Hanukkah bushes are celebrating. They're celebrating Christmas. It's Christmas trees. You put presents underneath it. You see, where that came from, the tradition of giving gifts and Hanukkah bushes came from when the Jews migrated to the United States in the 40s. After Hitler was going crazy over in Europe. So people started fleeing into the Americas and places like that. Because the children of these people that migrated were going to public schools with other kids, with Italians, with Irish, and they realized that when Xmas time came, the other children were getting presents and their kids felt left out because they didn't celebrate Xmas. So what the Jewish man did is he said, well, we're going to celebrate Hanukkah as the Jewish Christmas. We're going to adopt Hanukkah bushes. We're going to do all of that stuff. And guess what? It has nothing to do with us. If you got a Hanukkah bush in your house right now, throw it out. It has nothing to do with us. All right? So I hope that I've given you some kind of understanding on this, and hoping and praying that the Most High God once again will bless you all, protect you, be with you. I bid to y'all in the tongue of our ancient forefathers, Shabbat Shalom. Remember, I'm going to finish the next two chapters in the morning, first thing in the morning, so you could catch it then. And may the Most High God be with you all. Hallelujah. Amen.